Hey guys, so today on my to-do list, I want to get some of these tomatoes in my freezer preserved up. I would like to make some room for some groceries. So the majority of these tomatoes actually came from my father-in-law's garden. Mine didn't produce that many tomatoes this year, but luckily he had an abundance, so he told me to go over there and pick as many as I wanted, and this is what I came home with. Quite a bit to process today. There is a bit of irony to me having all these tomatoes now, though, because recently I was diagnosed with GERD, which is basically just severe acid reflux, and I am not allowed to have any tomatoes right now, which really is a shame because tomato products made up quite a bit of my diet before. But I'm still going to can these up as crushed tomatoes since that's what we use the most of, and stick to my diet this year, and hopefully by next year I'll be ready to introduce some more tomato-based products back into my diet. Now, I'm putting all these tomatoes into aluminum foil pans to get them into the oven so that I can get them just soft enough to peel the outer peels off. I could accomplish this by just leaving them out on the counter as well and letting them naturally thaw, but I kind of want to get going with my day and get this done with. So into the oven they go. The biggest reason why I like to use these aluminum foil pans for this is because tomatoes hold a lot of water. And that's actually another byproduct that I'm going to be canning today from these tomatoes is some tomato juice. So I find that the aluminum foil pans really help to keep all the juice in while they are thawing out a bit. And then I can just pour the extra juice off into my bowl for tomato juice. Whenever I'm doing a big canning day, I always like to make sure I have all of my canning supplies set out and ready to go before I really get started. And while we're waiting for those tomatoes to get soft in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and get started on making 4 loaves of wheat bread. Here I'm just pouring in some milk. It's shelf stable, and that is primarily how I like to keep my milk because we don't really go through it enough for me to buy gallons of milk at the store. We did have a couple left over in the fridge, though, from where I had opened them and only drinking half, so I did check to make sure that those were good before I went ahead and added them into this recipe. I was really excited to be able to get my big bulk batch mixing bowl out today. This is only the second time I've ever used it, and I use it for bread primarily. I don't really make anything else in this much bulk. While my yeast was proofing, my first batch of tomatoes was ready to be peeled, and I love how this worked out this way. Basically, this entire day for the first half, it was just me bouncing back and forth between bread tasks and tomato tasks. After getting them peeled, they go directly into the roaster so that I can cook them down a bit before we jar them. Now, I have to say, there is one disadvantage to using this giant mixing bowl. Well, I guess you could say it's not necessarily a disadvantage. I can't use my standing mixer when I'm making stuff in bulk this big. So I just have to knead it myself by hand, which sometimes I really enjoy. It's kind of therapeutic to go through the motions of making and kneading bread, and you can just kind of let your mind be at ease, especially if you know the recipe well and you can just throw it together. But sometimes when I'm tired and not feeling it, but I want the homemade bread, it is like takes all of the strength in me to knead that bread because it does take some pretty big arm strength to be able to do that. Surprisingly, this dough came together really well without adding much extra flour at all. And this is actually the first time that I am trying this specific wheat bread recipe out, and I'm impressed so far. It came together real nice. It's not sticky at all. And here I'm just getting my bowl oiled up so that I can let it proof for about an hour. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen those really cute proofing bowl covers. I have some of those. I love them. They are too small for my giant bowl, so I feel like I need to make a big one to fit over this bowl. By the way, using my meddler didn't do much. I eventually just let it cool, got my hands in there, and squished them to crush them. And I found this method worked best for getting all the tomato juice out. I would just basically take the sieve and go around a couple of times and some juice would come out and I would scoop it out into my bowl. I do like to add some lemon juice to my tomato juice to help bring the acidity up a little bit. Since it's primarily water, I just feel safer doing that. Now, I don't do that to my crushed tomatoes because I feel like with all the meat that is in there, the acidity level is pretty high, and I feel like it's a rarity that you would come across having an entire batch of tomatoes that would not be acidic enough for canning purposes. Oh, and I don't know if you noticed, but my lemon juice jar is not yellow. It is slightly brown. I don't know if anybody else has bought some tomato juice from Azure and it has turned brown. Let me know. Mine has. It doesn't expire till November, but all of them are a slight brownish. They smell fine, taste fine, but for some reason they are all a tinge of brown and they never used to be that way. Also, no tomato peels were wasted today. I got them on the dehydrator, and once they're dehydrated, I will pulverize them and make a nice tomato powder out of them. By this point, my bread really needed some attention. It had been rising for quite some time, but I wanted to go ahead and get some chicken marinated for one of the meal preparations that I'm doing for this upcoming week. Last week we made some grilled chicken and I used it on my salads and it was so good. I loved that marinade. So we're using it again this week. And I'm also making some meals for my husband in addition to that. And yes, I am using my rolling pin to tenderize my chicken because I do not have a meat tenderizer. My first batch of tomato juice was done right before I was getting ready to start on that dough. So I went ahead and pulled it out and waited until I rolled my dough up before I started on another batch. And in case you're wondering, if you've never canned tomato juice before, it is supposed to separate like that. If you see how it's like clear at the bottom, you just shake it up once you're getting ready to use it and it'll go back to normal. It kind of freaked me out the first time that I canned it and saw it like that. To ensure that all of my loaves are the same size, I went ahead and weighed this and divided it by 4 and got it put into 4 different pieces. Now, I know I probably should have put some flour down on my surface here, but once I felt the dough, I didn't think I really needed to, and I didn't. These rolled out just perfectly without any flour, and it kind of saved me the trouble of having to clean up that big floury mess that usually happens, and I didn't get any flour all over my shirt, so I look at this as a win-win. I do love these red silicone bread pans because it takes the step of having to grease your pan out of it, and anything that can take an extra step off for me, I enjoy. The downside of them, though, is that sometimes they don't keep their shape, so like the edge of the bread might push on the edge of the silicone a little bit, and it makes it a little misshapen, and this did unfortunately happen today. It wasn't that bad, but I wish it could have been avoided. Now I am on to the second half of my day. Nearly all of my canning is done, the bread is done, and I am getting started on some really quick and easy meals for my husband and I. These potatoes are actually from my in-law's garden as well. My mother-in-law dropped them off for me, and I really appreciate that she shares some of these things with me because now I'm able to have really delicious fresh potatoes for our dinner. Right now I'm making some fish with lemon pepper seasoning. Honestly, I have no idea what kind of fish this is. I found it in the freezer unlabeled. That's my fault. Should have labeled it. But it gets a pat of butter, and I'm also going to be making some rice with this. This is my little secondhand rice cooker that I got a couple months ago, and man, this thing does the trick perfect. We have a giant bag of peas from Costco that needs to be used up, so I'm going to go ahead and throw some peas on, and we'll have that with our dinner as well. Here is our fish all finished up and looking pretty delicious. Here is the chicken that my husband grilled on the grill for us. And now it is just a matter of me getting all of these meals plated up and in containers so that we can get them cooled, labeled, and into the freezer so that this week when we want a meal, all I have to do is pull it out, put it in my lunchbox, and take it to work with me. Since I'm on second shift, I eat lunch and dinner at work. And my husband is usually just left by himself at home then around dinner time. So this makes it easier for him as well because now he doesn't have to cook something for one. He can just pull something out of the freezer that's homemade and eat that. Plating up the peas was the last thing to do on my to-do list. And as you can see, once I finished, I was so glad to be done. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today as I prepare food and preserve it just as much as I enjoyed doing it today. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great night. Bye-bye.